This video is called I Have a Voice, and it's mainly for people who feel like there's something that they're really passionate about, and it could be anything. It could be, for me it was fashion and expressing your individuality through that, which felt like something that not everybody was talking about, and it definitely felt like something that wasn't supposed to be a career. It wasn't supposed to be important, but it was important to me. So this is for anyone who feels like there's something that's really important to them, that they know they want to do, or that they know they want to speak about. And it's also for people who have struggled to find their voice. I have mentioned this briefly in another video that I did, but I don't think I went into a lot of detail on it. So when I was younger, I was very good at conversing with adults. That was something that was really easy for me because I was used to being around them, because we used to have like dinner parties, and we'd have people coming for dinner. Especially when we lived in France, we had like my parents had a community of friends. So people would come over, and often I would stay up for the meals and things like that, and I was used to being involved with adults, so that was really easy for me. But I found it really difficult being around groups of children my own age. I know that a lot of people are going to have stories like mine. There are going to be a lot of people who've experienced things like this. And, I don't know, in the long run, I don't really know how it affected me. Maybe some of these things were a good thing because maybe they taught me resilience. I don't know. And then in other ways, I think maybe it would have been better if things had been done differently. But, we'll never know what the effect would have been if it were different. And my life was my life. But I do remember that when I was in Spain, I remember, and again, I'm sure some of you will have had experiences like this, I remember always being the last to be chosen for sports teams. So we'd have PE, and usually in PE we would be divided into two groups. We would have we'd have teams for whatever sport it was that we were playing. And so usually, rather than the teacher dividing you up, which is something that they usually did when I went to Ireland, in Spain that's not what happened. So in Spain, my experience when I was there was that usually you would have two captains would be picked, and then they would pick whoever they wanted to be on the teams. And I was usually either last or second last. So it was either I was the very last resort, so they didn't really pick me. I had to go to that team. They didn't even have to say my name, because it was obvious that I was the last person, and it was obvious where I had to go. I had to go to the team that was next to pick, because there was nobody else to pick. Or I was the second last resort. And yeah, so I felt like it was very clear to me. This would have been when I was still in primary school, so I was probably only about 10 still at this stage. But I mean, it might sound young, but I definitely remember it very clearly, and it was very clear to me that I was very much near the bottom of the popularity ladder. I was somewhere near the bottom of the food chain, and that was pretty obvious to me. I've never really liked team sports. I've always found it very confusing. And I did used to play tennis, and I used to play doubles, and I really liked that. I really liked that. But like actual team sports, like things like football and things like that, I found them really confusing. I always felt like I never knew when to move for the ball and when not to move for the ball. I never knew when to let someone else do it, or, it was very confusing. But the most confusing thing to me was the competitiveness and the aggression. That it confused me that it was just a game, but that if you did something wrong that negatively impacted the team, or if you weren't sure what to do and you panicked and you screwed up, that people could get really aggressive about that. People would shout at you to move, to make a move, to do something. And, often I found that if you didn't move, if you didn't respond, then, there was a problem. And then if you did respond and you didn't do it right, there was a problem. So yeah, I mean, I always had I never had a really great relationship with team sports. When we first moved to Ireland, I found that quite complicated as well in some ways, because I felt like everyone was like mini teens. And I wasn't. I really wasn't. Like I didn't feel like I'd grown up enough for that. I still felt like a child. I wanted to play, and I wasn't used to having these conversations with the other children. I mean, at that age, I probably would have been about 11, 12. And I'd grown up in a really different way. I felt like I didn't know the music. I didn't, because I just come from Spain. And so the music over there that I've been listening to was very different mostly. The programs that I was watching were either kids programs or, on the other hand, adults programs. But these sort of teenage programs weren't things that I was watching. So I wasn't really involved in that way. And I didn't know how to relate. I didn't know what to talk about. And I seem to remember that it was like my brain was getting in the way, and I don't know to what extent that was happening, but I do know that I found it really difficult to speak. I found it really difficult to have a conversation, even then, with kids my own age. And it was like I never knew when to speak. I didn't know what to speak about. And it's like I would just sort of freeze. I'd freeze, I'd block up, and sometimes I'd want to say something, and then it just felt like I couldn't. It felt like there was a block there, and I was so nervous and so shy around people my own age, especially groups, that it was like most of the time I would stay quiet and I would say very little. But conversations and getting involved like that, when I was young, that was really hard. Yeah, I found that really difficult. When I really started to open up was when I went to uni, I think. That's when things started to change for me, in like socially, because when I was in secondary school, I'd gotten better, and, I had my group of friends, and I would talk to my group of friends, but I was pretty quiet outside of that group. And, I don't know how much I talked to other people. Some, yes, but most of the time I think I was considered to be pretty quiet. But when I went to university, it felt like a chance to reinvent myself all over again. And I knew that people wouldn't know me there, so it was just a chance to really start again. And so I started again. I decided that I was going to try to be more outgoing. And yes, I got better with groups because I got used to seeing people around with different people. And of course, the campus was so big, you knew that if you weren't comfortable, you could just move away and you could talk to other people. And so you had that freedom. So socially, from a social perspective, going to university changed things for the positive for me, for sure. It was when I was at university that I think I really got into fashion a lot more. It gave me the chance to express myself because we didn't have uniform. And, I bought a few things at that time. And it just gave me more of a chance to express myself and experiment. And, over the few years that I was at uni, because I was at university for about 5 years, it would be, because it was 4 years of undergrad, and then I had 1 year of masters. So I had plenty of time to, build up my wardrobe a little bit. And, so I had my pieces. And I really learned more about myself during that time, and more about how I felt about expressing myself through fashion and through style and through how I looked. And I started to realize that was something I really cared about, and I realized how important that was to me. So I think that there were maybe two things in particular that could have been holding me back from really finding my voice. One of those things was not realizing that, that what I was interested in, that fashion as a way of self-expression and authenticity, thinking that wasn't necessarily valid, that wasn't valid as a topic, that other people might not care about it, that it was considered superficial and not important, even though it was important to me. And I think the second thing was maybe feeling like I was stuck in my own head a bit, like struggling with the thoughts in my own head, like coming from the place where I had been when I was younger, where I found it so difficult to express myself, certainly to express myself in a group, to express myself to people my own age. And almost, I remember this feeling of like feeling like I was trapped in some ways, I think. And I don't think I recognized how much I felt that way at the time. But when I look back on it now, I think that's what a lot of it was. It was almost feeling like I was trapped to a certain extent in my own head. Like I just didn't know how to get past that because I was just so in my own way, because I was afraid that I didn't know how to, it felt like I didn't know how to interact the way that other people were interacting. It wasn't easy for me. I didn't interact with ease with other kids my own age the way other people did. And so then I think that could have been a block as well. But I came out of that, as I started to get older and I got my group of friends, and then I just, as I started to become more comfortable with myself and more used to being around groups of people, and then that slowly faded, and I came through that, especially when I became more confident in myself. I had a voice then, and I wasn't ready to use it. And I want you to know that you have a voice. And if there's something that you really care about, that you're passionate about, and you're not ready to talk about it, or you're not ready to follow it, then that's okay. I just want you to know that that's all right. If you're not ready, you're not ready, and you're getting ready for it, and that's okay. And for anyone who has struggled, the way that I struggled to communicate in groups, and to deal with groups, and to talk to people my own age, and to really feel like I could fully be myself. I mean, in some ways I felt like I was being myself. I dressed my own way, but I often felt it difficult to speak when when I was in groups and with people I didn't know. So if you do struggle with that, know that it's okay, and the more that the kinder that you are to yourself, and the more confident you become because you're being kinder to yourself and more understanding with yourself, the more the louder you will get, and the more you will feel you can use your voice. So you also have a voice. If you related to this video in any way, then please leave me a comment. You can leave me a comment on here, or you can go over to my Instagram page. I'll leave my handle down here. And if you would like to see more of my videos, then please hit the subscribe button, and I will talk to you soon.